You ready?
Wow.
And I'm gonna go down and visit with them a few days. And I was gonna get at my own hotel because they're staying.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the Morgan County Council December 7th, 2020 meeting. If you'll all stand. I'd first ask that you would take a moment of silence to recognize Mr. Bob Gregory. He recently passed away, and he had given 32 years of service to the county council. Thank you. If you'll follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to gather together. We just praise you in this time of your Savior's birth, our Savior's birth. We pray that you be with those who need you most, those that are hurting, those with mental illness, those in troubled times, those that are battling COVID and other illness and disease. Be with those who are suffering from cancer. Be with those who work the front lines and keep them safe. Be with our soldiers, both near and far. Let us remember the reason for this season, and we give you thanks and praise. Amen.
Amen.
My stuff's spread out.
First on the agenda, County Coroner.
Lost my pen. I have another one.
Where's that mask you were telling me about? Oh, no, the one
I
where
haven't,
it's
I haven't
hollowed
cut
out.
it out yet.
You haven't hollowed it out?
No, I have to work on the design.
Okay.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
It's good to be here and see you all smiling faces. Coroner asked me to step in for her. She was unable to get down here this evening to speak with you. She's requesting an additional of $1,500 in the chaplain line. I guess there was some confusion or something, because at the beginning of the year, that became a one item, and what they originally, I guess, were giving each office that used the chaplain services was budgeted for and then taken out of. So the salary for chaplain was changed after budget approval last year, and she's being told the auditors about this amount. And she asked me this afternoon to come in and speak about it.
Any questions?
Make a motion that we approve $1,500 for chaplain services for the county coroner.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Operator will second.
No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Oh, boy, here's the big one.
Next up, County Commissioners. Insurance.
I'm going to speak, I'll speak on that. I have a worksheet here that's put together to calculate what tonight's additional request for the group health. For the year before and in years prior, our funding for group health was really falling short of where it should be. We weren't even funding it at the minimum recommended amount. And so for this year, it was decided that we should fund the group health insurance fund at the expected claims level, which was not taken into account when the original 2020 appropriations were set. And now we need to get those appropriations brought up to the amount that needs to be for the, to be able to transfer the money into the group health fund. The the worksheet that is being handed down has column for each of the components of the group health funding. There's a health insurance component, a dental insurance component, vision insurance, life insurance, and the short-term disability. So there's a column for each of those, and then the far left column are the funds, fund numbers of the funds that we need to get additional money into the appropriation for. So you can see those amounts for each component per month, and then the total for each per month. This is on the average for the year. Then we have for the total 12 months, the annual amount. Then comparing that to the 2020 appropriation, and then the difference is the deficit or the amount that needs to be additional for the group health appropriation. The amounts being requested tonight are increased by 10% just to cover, to make sure, because these are averages, to make sure that it's gonna be enough to cover that. So these are the funds that are all included in tonight's additional appropriation request. At the time that I put together the additional appropriation request, I thought that we were going to need money in the county sheriff's department, in the local income tax public safety fund 1170, but as these calculations show, that's not needed, so that particular appropriation amount of $28,000 is not needed. All the others are.
Any questions of the auditor? We're probably going to have to vote on these one at a time since they're individual funds, are they? Are we not? We don't have to?
Just have a motion, if you want, you can just have a motion to approve the.
Oh, group health insurance
Right.
request?
Right.
So loud. All them firemen.
For what it's worth, these calculations here and the process of moving the money from the various funds into the group health fund has been a completely manual process, very time consuming. We fell behind on getting this transfer done. I thought I had the first 6 months completed, and then when I looked back at the amounts, how they were being calculated, I found that they were not calculated correctly. So we had to correct that, plus get the last 6 months of the year. Thanks to your approval of the appropriations to get a new payroll system, starting in January, this transfer of money from the payroll and from the various funds that employees are paid from, that process will be completely automated, and the transfer will happen automatically at the end of each pay period, and thank goodness. This has been a very, very time-consuming calculation and process.
Any questions of the auditor? Hearing none, I would look for a motion that would encumber and all the sub-funds requesting to fund the group health insurance.
At the total of 600,000?
That's the general fund. There's an amount for each fund.
Okay.
What's the total that was advertised?
Well, it's in the neighborhood of 900,000, I have total.
598? The
598.
904,
98.
Yeah, it's close to that. I rounded off some of those other numbers a little bit too, but yes.
It just gets a little confusing.
It's a little confusing
Yeah.
when it's broken out.
Do we know how much is in the line item currently, which we used to call our savings account?
Total.
Well, we do, but it doesn't include any of these, I mean.
Right.
Are we waiting on something?
Yeah.
Okay.
1,189,000.
We can't change that.
We can't do that. We can only do as much as that.
I think it has to be.
What's the amount that was advertised? Because I'm assuming we can't go above what was advertised.
The amount that's advertised is what's on
So
your,
the 904,598. On-
Okay.
Well, the agenda doesn't, I didn't have a total because it's all broken out, so I just wanted to make sure.
Well, I think you rounded up, didn't you?
Is there a total on this page with all the fund numbers?
what was advertised.
Okay.
I've rounded up some of those numbers, but we can get that.
We need to know what we-
$900,200.
I'm just doing it on my phone, but I got a different figure.
900,000.
Well, I left off the sheriff in the public safety, lit public safety sheriff amount. I didn't include it because we don't need that amount.
When I added it up, it was
28,000.
900,200.
That's what he got.
Yep, that's what I added it up.
What'd you get? I got
900, 200. $900, 200.
I'll do it again. Left out the 28,000 for the sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, he's gonna be mad. What else did you leave off?
Nothing else.
Are you catching name? Because I'm at
Mm-hmm.
9046 plus 3,200.
I don't know what you're doing, but I'm looking at the numbers right here.
There's
I'm
professional
adding-
services in here too, group computer, make sure he's not adding all the numbers, because some of
Probably
these are for
including
other
some
things.
you shouldn't.
Thing.
I got
900,000,
200, yep, I got it.
Computer software was throwing me off. It snuck computer software in on the spreadsheet.
All right.
So
I'll make a
that-
motion that we approve $900,200 as outlined in the multiple funds that Dan has presented.
I have a motion on the floor to subsidize our group health insurance to the tune of $900,200. Do I have a second?
Kim Meredith will second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Dan, for,
Yes, thank you, Dan, for working hard on getting those numbers.
if I've not overlooked something, county cumulative building fund for $70.
Right, that is a bond service fee that wasn't included in the budget when we approved it for 2020. Nowhere to transfer the money because there are no accounts other than principal and interest in that fund.
Can I have a motion on the floor to approve $70?
Operator will make that motion.
Paul, do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign, motion passes. Local Roads and Streets Fund, computer software.
Well, this is a deficit in their appropriation that's, I'm not sure if this is tied to their financial software or if it's part of the engineering software. Honestly, I don't know. Yeah, I think it is. I think it is the GIS for the engineering.
Is there someone here to discuss that?
Tony's far, far
And
away.
everyone looks at the end of the computer geek like, what's this for?
Okay, well,
Sorry,
GIS software is just mapping software. Assuming that's what it is, then that is simply just software needed for mapping. There's probably some Esri licenses that somebody didn't calculate they needed. But I don't know that because I don't have anyone to ask. That's my guess from past
Who should
experience.
have been here to tell us that?
Yeah.
Tell you for the local road and street, and when we get to motor vehicle highway fund, those appropriation requests are already the negative amounts in those appropriations, so. It is what it is.
Sports?
Sports here.
Do you have any
You have any input
information
on
on
that?
this? Okay,
And he's in,
and he's serving our country?
Yeah. I think we can make an exception
I
to
think so too.
an appearance.
I'll make a motion that we approve $7,600 for computer software for local roads and streets.
I have a motion on the floor, do I have a second?
Vicky Kivett will make that second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Sign, motion passes.
So motor vehicle highway, these accounts are negative by these amounts. There's nowhere else to transfer the money. So this is what it is. Either approve the additionals or we end the year in a negative in these appropriations, so.
Why are we negative?
Why are we,
Don't know. I do.
Commissioner Goodwin, do you have any thoughts on why? Uh-huh.
Vehicle
Motor
Highway
vehicle
Fund?
highway.
Up to the tune of almost $450,000. Is there going to be some guidance in the future on,
Checks and balances going forward. Have we implemented any? Do we have?
here, Josh?
That's what the budget is.
I think honestly, not to put Tony under the bus, I think there was a little bit of misunderstanding of appropriations versus fund balances and knowing what he had to operate with. It's essentially what I think happened. One of the things we're going to do to hedge this moving forward is me and Sport and Tony via Teams and Dan and Karen are going to start meeting in January to make sure that nobody gets out of sync with what the budget's supposed to be. I think that's our best solution moving forward, is making sure that
Yeah, because we
everybody
can't,
understands.
We can't absorb those kinds of.
can't absorb that kind of cost. I mean, that, yeah.
100%. I think, one of the points Tony made at budget hearing was, we've got a lot of work to do. While prices are low, let's do it. And I think what he thought was, well, we have the funds to do it, even though we don't have the appropriations to do it. And I think that's where some of this got out of whack. So the intent is still that next year, it's to spend down some of these monies. And so I think we will keep it under control, but I think it was just a mistake of trying to get a lot done and rushing in as opposed to malintent. So that's really all I can say.
Do this year, we can't do this next year.
Oh,
Not do this.
There's sufficient fund balance to do the
That's what I was getting ready to
additionals,
ask.
but this can't be repeated next year, so we got to make sure we're all on the same page. By time that I was brought into this is what it was,
You,
and I think that's also true for sport.
There, not that I think that you're absolutely right. Excuse me, there'll be, some checks here on your end from an administrative standpoint to make sure some things are happening. But from an elected official standpoint, is there maybe some things we can do to follow up in the future to make sure, again, if it was a few $1,000s, that's one thing, but it's almost $500,000. I think that's something that, as elected officials, we need to be accountable to.
Dan, how difficult is it for you to run a report before a council meeting for us of how much has been spent monthly out of those funds? So we are just looking at it ourselves.
It's not difficult.
So maybe that would be something that could be given to the council for the next year.
as part of our packet.
As part of our packet, to keep an eye on it.
And that could be done. The difficulty, the problem here was this all happened like right at the end.
Okay, okay.
It's like,
Sure.
wham, here we
Right.
are.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm sure we won't have this problem, but it is something that incumbent upon us to be a little bit more careful.
So huge amounts.
well, I kind of think we have no choice but to go ahead and approve it this year with the stern
Either
recommendation,
approve it or we get written up.
with the stern recommendation that it's not to ever happen again.
Yeah, definitely.
Agreed.
And I will make that motion.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? I'm going to do my best to make sure it don't happen again.
Please do.
I don't know if I've ever seen this, so, no further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
All right,
Same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Just glad we had the money to cover it.
Yeah. Kind of shocked.
Transfer sheriff.
I've heard he's not, though. He's missing all kinds of roads. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good to see y'all. I don't know which order you want this in. The one that I'm going to talk about here is on the 80,000. It's 68,000 from gas to patrol cars, and the other is 12,000 from oil and tires to patrol cars. We're just wanting to transfer those over to patrol cars. So when we get our new deputies, hopefully tomorrow evening, we'll have some cars to put them in. So we're just asking for the transfer on that one first. The second one that David has here that we're talking about is from our 6,700 that we had originally that you folks had put in there for us for their long-term disability and didn't come into effect till this year starting, so we have that left over. And we went to put that into a new fund that we've talked to Dan about that we're going to call the Health and Wellness Services, and that will be able to direct anybody that we have involved in a police action shooting, any other type of big event or anything that we need to send them to care to be seen after that event. We'll have that money placed in there so we don't have to wait to appropriate that money. We can get those people right away to get somebody to be able to see them. So we want to start a new fund for that.
And it'll also be for pre-employment
Yes.
evaluations. Basically what will happen is we've recently had an issue that happened years ago that has came to light recently. And that issue, at the time, we relied upon workman's comp and insurance. And as quick as it needed to happen, couldn't happen as quickly. Therefore, we're going to try to catch that in the future and be able to insulate. And then we can get reimbursed for those costs from workman's comp. We've confirmed with them that if it was prepaid for initial services, that if it was deemed to be a claim, then they would reimburse the county for that out of that fund. So that is a fund from this point forward. We're going to start asking for funding as we proceed. It is already in the budget for this upcoming year. We'll just have to come in January to do another transfer back into that fund.
So procedurally, do you need anything from us to create that fund? I mean, the fund itself, since it's not a line item?
Well, this is not a fund. You keep calling it a fund.
Well,
Well,
right.
line item.
The line item,
It's
yes, I'm sorry,
appropriation,
line item.
yeah. And so it has to be renewed each year.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions of the sheriff or the jail commander?
Creation of fund would require commissioners.
I'm sorry.
I said to create a fund would
Yes,
require
right, yeah,
commissioners.
right, yeah.
But
Nice tie.
I'll tackle one of them. I motion that we transfer 68,000 from gas and 12,000 from oil and tires to 80,000, to make a total of 80,000 to patrol cars.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Operator.
Thank you. Any questions on the gas and oil going towards patrol cars? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That transfer passes 6-0. Do I have a motion for long-term disability to health and wellness?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Vicky Kivett.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. 6-0. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. And maybe I say, remember Pearl Harbor. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Absolutely.
Extension service?
This is an item on the agenda. If you did not, did you get the updated one here?
I got about 7 of them.
One, updated one has, this transfer on the original agenda wasn't complete. Well, you've got the updated.
Right.
There are two parts of this transfer.
Here, Kim and I'll share.
$600 for mileage to
He's got it digital.
supply, and the other one is $475 for mileage to program supplies. And the letter was in your packet. If you
Good evening. My name is Jan Walter. I'm with the Extension Office. Rena Sheldon is typically here, but she's under weather tonight, so I can slip seat with that. This is easy because we have budgeted money. Mileage did not allow us to do a bunch of traveling this year. So if you look at our mileage account that we're requesting, we want to take that line item in the amount of $600 and move it to office supply. So that would be an even $600 to office supply. In the other category, which is $475, we have found that the auditor has given us an opportunity to say, because we are doing a lot of training and Zoom meetings, we are in the need of what we call program supplies. We need those resources in order to do that training through remote. So that $475 would be creating a line item that is within our power because it's been budgeted, but we just need your permission to take that $475, put it into what we would call, or the auditor's permission would call, program supply.
The auditor must like you because he doesn't even allow me to, half the time, to come into this office.
Wait till he sees that new window.
I know it, it's coming. Any questions? And if not, I'd look for a motion.
So moved. I motion that we move $600 from mileage to office supplies and $475 from mileage to program supplies.
Do I have a second?
Kim Meredith will second.
Thank you very much for your time.
No further discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Sign. Motion passes 6-0. Next, commissioners.
It's just a transfer.
Yeah, this is just a transfer for our wellness program of $12,000. It's one of our monthly fees. So we're just asking you to transfer it from our supplies operating into the wellness program.
I don't remember reading that. You're transferring that to your wellness fees for
Their monthly fees.
It's a monthly fee we have.
monthly fee? I'm sorry, I just didn't recall reading it. Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, motion?
We'll make a motion, we transfer the 12,000 from 1,222,000,000,000,007 operating supplies to 1,312,500,000,000,068 wellness fee.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Vicki Kivett will make that second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Passes. Superior Court 2.
Denied.
Nobody here?
Come back to him.
Yeah, but this is pretty much a given. I mean, you've approved your service bonus in your salary ordinance. This is the amount of money needed to be able to pay that, so.
From law books.
Kim Meredith makes a motion to move $300 from law books, Superior Court 2, to years of service.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
That,
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
The other one's discretionary.
Oh, he's got another one.
Second, this next one is within Superior 2.
Oh. Come back to it.
Remind me, please. We'll come back. County Health Fund.
Jeannie.
I thought this was the meeting that y'all said yes to everything and we, Merry Christmas, we get to go home. Okay.
That's our next one. That's when Brian wears the cat suit and all that.
Okay. We have some money left for by the end of the year and in our vaccine account. And so I'm asking to transfer 2,000 of it. We are buying an electronic embossing seal for our birth and death certificates. We're having to use a handheld one now because our other one went out on us earlier this year, so.
Any questions for the new equipment? Hearing none, look for a motion.
Kivett makes a motion that we approve the transfer of $2,000 from vaccines to equipment.
Do I have a second? No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes. Motor Vehicle Highway Fund.
In addition to the additionals, there are these two accounts in equipment and equipment lease purchase that are negative that can be covered by a transfer from vehicle maintenance repair.
Thank God there's somewhere to transfer it from.
Any questions? Seeking a motion.
Kim Meredith will make a motion to transfer $2,882.88 from vehicle maintenance repair to equipment and equipment vehicle lease purchase.
Have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Back to Superior 2.
Superior 2.
You're on deck.
You want to approach the bench? Oh, I don't get to say that too often.
We did your.
I just have I believe it's just a
We've
request
done
for
your law
transfer.
books, yeah.
So we had an appropriation for furniture for this year, and getting that job done went over by about $600. So I'd like to just move that over, pay for that way, and get the vendor taken care of. I think that's all I really got on.
But you're asking for 1,000?
No, I think it's just a transfer. I'd have to look at what we did.
It is, but
$1,000 moving it from two places, then that covers it and leaves me some left over, I think, for additional equipment. So,
you're the only one that's really moved towards buying your furniture, aren't you? You're the only court that I've heard of that is
Well,
making that.
I've done
Step.
that. The only new furniture we wound up buying a jury room table and chairs commensurate with that. Because up to this point, my predecessor, who has many fine faults, one of which is being very, very frugal, we had essentially a jury room that the jury room table consisted of two relatively nice folding tables like that pushed together that you couldn't actually have 12 people sit at once. And given the small size of my jury room, a table that put 12 people on equal footing was challenging. So I wound up having to buy a squircle. It's not quite a square and not quite a circle that lets three aside sit there and furniture. So we needed that.
Right.
The leftovers, we wound up buying some actual good executive chairs for council tables and court reporter and my office staff. So
Good
so
job.
that was what I would call replacing
Yeah.
ongoing. The rest was kind of a new purchase to solve a problem. But I don't think we're going to need anything for a while now. So,
Well, thank you for being here.
No
Kim Meredith will,
problem.
go ahead. Did you have something else?
no,
Okay. I'll make a motion to move $1,000 from instruction education to equipment and furniture from Superior Court 2.
Vicki Kivett will make that second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Is
thank you all. Have a Merry Christmas.
the lamp in the window?
Yes, it is.
It is?
The leg lamp? Two? A pair? I love the leg lamp.
So the next thing on the agenda, salary ordinance. I I've sent to all of you the most recent version of the salary ordinance for you to review, and we do need to have action taken on that before the end of the year. Tonight would work. Salary ordinance does require 5 votes to approve, unlike appropriations that only require 4. Salaries do require 5. And
I give you a chance to shine, and that's
well, I don't
not
know
very-
what I don't know what more you want me to add. I
No.
mean, I mean,
Do we have any questions
I-
of the proposed salary ordinance for 2021? Any amendments or corrections?
I think we had questions on the dispatch. Or at least I know I did. And
I agree.
Yeah.
Yes, we had questions.
So I think Scott and I had discussed some of this, and there's some issues with years of service and how that's counted as, is that years of service totally within the county in that matrix, or is that years of service in the department? And I think when the matrix for the jail was created, it was created with a years of service within the jail. Not, correct me if I'm wrong, Commander and Sheriff, was that not created with years of service within the jail, not? Yes, both the road and the jail was within those divisions. And that was basically to keep the jailer who got, because if that was the case, if we done it reverse, there would be jailers that would be maxed out as a deputy. Exactly. So I had issue with counting overall years of service versus years of service in that department. I don't know how others felt in that matrix.
Well, I'll jump in and give my thoughts, and these are just my opinions, but I do think that there's something to be said when we're bringing in people from other departments, bringing in lateral movement, so to speak, to encourage that. I think that's something that we need to be discussing. I'm not sure that there's a easy answer, because some departments, Vicki and I discussed this earlier, there are some departments that are completely, their job description may not actually match well with dispatch, but there are others, say a jailer or EMS, might actually match up pretty well. And so in my mind, I'm thinking those are things we need to consider when we're bringing people over. We want to encourage lateral movement, in my mind.
well, the salary ordinance as presented to you right now has the verbiage in the jail and the sheriff and dispatch departments, or funds where those departments are funded from, that the years for the years-based compensation are the full years of service and/or experience completed with the department at December 31, 2020. And that's consistent with your application, right? David?
Yes, that's correct. That's how we propose ours, yes.
Okay.
Scott, is that how yours was proposed?
No, Scotty.
Scott. Is that how yours was proposed? I don't believe it was.
No, and because we're kind of a new department, we've been in operation for 6 years. The people that came from the sheriff's department, the dispatch people that came from the sheriff's department, their time came with them. The city police department, their time came with them. I came from the sheriff's department, and that's kind of where we were at.
I still think it needs to stay consistent within the department.
That's your choice. I mean, that's the council's action. The separate from the sheriff as a dispatch department is relative new, but yet when but dispatching is not new.
Right.
And so dispatching, while it may not have occurred in a separate department and funded through separate funds, did occur as an operation within the sheriff's department. But I think that, I don't know, it depends on how you want to interpret department. If you're going to interpret it the way that Scott just said, then there's no one in the dispatch department that has more than 6 years. But yet, there are dispatchers who have been dispatching for more than 6 years. So there's a possibility, if you want to consider the years, not just the years that they've been working within the dispatch department as a separate department from the sheriff's, but if you want to consider the years that the individuals have been performing the job of dispatching, we may need to tweak the language a little bit in the ordinance.
Scott, what's
That would
your-
go back to your reference on a lateral movement.
Yeah.
That would almost address the lateral movement.
But if you want to, if you don't want to make any you don't want to distinguish the years as being years that they have performed the job of dispatching to be considered, but you want the years to be just the years they've been with the county, then that, you know, that's really what we have with longevity.
Right.
Right. And that was one of my concerns, is if you took a desk deputy in this, let's say from the treasurer's office that got hired as a dispatcher, and with the county, they had a total of 15 years when they started working at dispatch. I just think that we need a lot better clarification if we're going to,
Well, if you have a matrix, and you, list for your example,
right,
you have a matrix at the dispatch department that is based upon years at the dispatch department, then that individual that would move from the treasurer's office to dispatch, they'd be starting new. And
On
they
the
wouldn't be,
dispatch matrix.
they wouldn't be,
Year one.
they would not get the longevity pay because they're now in a matrix
matrix,
position.
right?
And they would be starting new, if that's how you want it to be. I mean, this is your decision to
I
make.
know, there's some
And not to confuse things, we are working on it, and I've talked to Josh about this, and some of you folks about this, about a policy that we're working on on lateral transfers eventually. Then with doing this matrix, which we really appreciate, the next logical step for us is to work on a policy of lateral transfers. So if we have somebody from another dispatch center that has 10 years as a dispatcher there, and they have the certifications that we're looking for, instead of us having to invest the time and effort into training a new hire, they're bringing something to the table, so we should give them a certain amount of credit. Now, this won't apply for their vacation or personal day or anything like that, but in pay, we could say, okay, we're gonna give you credit for 50% of your time you have at the other agency, up to a certain amount, maybe 10 years or something like that. So they would start a little higher than a fresh hire, because that's gonna make it more attractive for us to drag them from another dispatch center. They're gonna say, hey, you know, I can go over here, make a little bit more money, my training and everything transfers. And we're even looking at that not just with dispatch, but other public safety entities, EMS, sheriff's department, fire, because those folks bring something to us. They may not have the dispatch certifications, but they understand public safety. They understand public safety procedures. They understand the geography of the county. So they are valuable to us because they do bring things that we don't have to train them on. And that is helpful to us. So that's, something we're looking at, working at doing it, because that gives us the most bang for our buck. And we invest the least amount of training in that type of person, which saves us money.
Anything involves pay is council decision.
So with that being said, then, that doesn't help us today, though, on making a decision, because that's obviously
Right,
not
no.
something we can decide today, because you don't have the information to us
No.
yet. that kind of puts us in a bit of a conundrum. Because what I don't want to do is say, hey, let's do this, and then
Right.
3 months down the road, we have something that
Right.
looks vastly different because of that change.
And I understand both sides of the argument. I mean, when I came from where I came from, my years of service traveled with me. I mean, that's what happened, it traveled with me. And now it seems that that's not.
Well, I think there needs to be a little more clarification, and Josh and I have talked about that on future issues. If there's a retirement and then you come back to the county in some capacity, whether that, if this ends and this starts over. So I think we need a better clarification of that.
It's outlined in the longevity policy in the past. If there's a break in service of what, more than?
30 days.
But it was less than 30 days. I mean, I left the sheriff's department on a Friday and I started dispatch director on a Monday.
But that's longevity. Yeah, I mean, you didn't, you did not have a break that was long, that extended beyond the longevity. What am I doing? I'm just looking.
But we have employees that retire and then 30 days or so go by and then they return to the same job again. Would he start at year 1 or would he start at year 18?
As long as it's not more than 20 working days. As long as,
Return within 20 working days?
yeah, that's in your personnel, that's in your
Yeah.
salary ordinance.
Yeah.
But doesn't PERS say 30 days?
That doesn't have anything to do with your longevity, that's
Yeah.
perf rules.
Okay.
No, it's in your salary ordinance, it's, your salary ordinance has, and it's had this language since day one,
Okay.
that if you have a break that's more than 20 days, then you start all over. But if you do the matrix, as it is this year with the 2020 salary ordinance, the sheriff's department and the jail, those positions that are within that matrix, pay matrix, they're not eligible for longevity pay.
Right.
And with making the assumption that you're going to do the same with the dispatch matrix, those positions will not be, if you pass it this way, will not be in the longevity.
We eliminated longevity when we put the matrix together. We completely, we have nothing in our budget for next year for longevity. We have removed that. This is solely dependent on a progression of pay. And, you know, the matrix that I presented at budget and at the council time is what I thought was, I mean, didn't have any other information that there was anything different about that. And then, since then, we've determined that there is, and that puts my pay and my deputy director's pay her less than what a supervisor is making, and me right at what a supervisor is making.
And would you ever consider extracting the director and the assistant director out of the matrix? Would that be
I think it could be done. The reason we didn't is just because, you know, I'm kind of I like to see people promoted from within, and so that is kind of,
but I
that
don't want
sets
to.
that up for that incentive. But
But
it's
we-
ultimately the commissioner's decision on who becomes the dispatch director.
Right, I'm not saying the
So if they just decide now the deputy director, I would think that, I mean, I guess it could be the commissioner's decision on who would want to be
Right,
they'd
and
want to
none
be
of
the
us would
deputy
have anything
director,
to say
or
on that.
they could leave that to the
Decisions.
director's hand and say, director, who do you want to be your deputy? You know, that could fall probably either way.
I just don't want you to end up in a position where your director is making less than some of your supervisors.
Right, well,
So
that's-
I
and
think
that's-
maybe the answer to that is that we set aside the director and the executive director aside from the matrix. Still have the matrix. I'm in favor of the matrix, but
Yeah.
that way we don't.
If that's your total desire, that's, as long as, yeah, it's fair and equitable, I have no, you know.
Yeah. The other caveat to that is we as a group had decided that we weren't going to go above the median amount of the job study. So I think we would have to adhere to that along with this, because we have other positions that did not receive raises this year because we made the decision not to go above that median. So these are all things that are on the table. I'm just the messenger. Thoughts?
I think separating might be might solve kind of our immediate problem while we figure out your plan of how to do some lateral movements, especially with people who have significant public safety experience. I do think that when we are looking at the pay of the director and deputy director, you've got to have incentive for someone to be willing to move up to that position, so it's got to have a higher pay than what the average employee is making, even a senior supervisor employee. So this may be the simpler solution.
Their current salaries are above the mid-range right now.
Well, I understand that. But I also understand that we need to make sure people who are doing these jobs, let's forget individuals for a moment and say, if we're looking at the director and deputy director to take on those additional responsibilities, it's got to be something where somebody could say, oh, I'm a supervisor, but I'd like to be the deputy director someday, so there has to be a financial incentive to do that.
And if that's the case, and we've decided not to go above the median, then does that mean we can't implement the matrix at all? Because we're gonna, if we implement the matrix for the employees, we're gonna put them, a supervisor, above where the director is.
It's a lot easier to to stick with the matrix and adjust their salaries.
But you're gonna adjust their salaries, but not adjust the other people that are already at the median for all of the departments. That's what I'm asking, because we made that decision above, to everyone, that we were gonna, nobody was going above the median.
We also have to sometimes adjust the
Sure.
situation. And I would love to be able to paint a brush and say it's gonna hit everybody exactly the same, but we always know there's gonna be some slight adjustments. And I don't mind making some slight adjustments in this case.
But the WIS study did take into account years, okay?
Okay,
So that's one difference, is that when you're looking at the dispatchers and the supervisors and the IDAX coordinator, all those individuals, you really can't look at the 20-year level
right.
and compare it to WIS, because WIS did not take into account.
Right.
But for example, to follow what you're talking about is making sure your director and deputy director are at least above or at or above
Right.
your highest paid individual. A 20-year supervisor is at the $32.91, is at $68,500.
68.5.
Yeah. Is that right, Scott? Does
Yes,
sound-
that sounds about right, Dan. Let me look at it real quick and verify.
40-hour week and took the 32.91.
Supervisor, 68,707, I believe, is what I've got on this matrix here. So that would be close, probably some rounding there, if I was guessing.
And the assistant?
Kid is
Assistant director?
2,080 hours.
70,834.
What was that?
Assistant director. No, go ahead.
So I was just gonna say, I pulled back open the stuff. So the midpoint for Scott's position, and I didn't look at deputy because let's just start there, is at 63 for next year. And with the matrix right now, Dan mentioned the position that was at 68. So we're already seeing pretty big pay compression. It sounds like we're all circling around the idea that the matrix is a good step to move forward. The real question is, do we want to keep Scott or Scott and Missy, is their positions, not as their people, in the matrix? Or do we want to strip it out? And if we strip it out, then it sounds like we really need to maybe talk with WIS about this one and see, is it possible that that position needs to be reevaluated? That might be the least amount of moving parts as if we look at it from that perspective.
Yeah, we could wait on that, right, Dan? I mean, we have time to get that
Yes.
word from Liz.
Yes.
I just, you all have mentioned many times wanting to be cognizant of not getting into the position we're making a lot of exceptions. There were a lot of moving parts. It's possible we need to take a closer look at.
Would you be okay with that, Scott?
And I've been saying from day one, I think as we revolutionized our payroll and our determination of job titles, and not everyone's happy. I've had, now that they're seeing it, I'm getting them. Well, it's a work in progress. It's a step that's not been done in, I know, 23 years. So we're going to have to go back not on only this one, but several of them and say, hey, the job description kind of had a slant like this, and it doesn't slant that way at all in reality. We need to rewrite it, redo it, reevaluate it. So
A working document.
it's a working document, and I can't, that phrase right there, we must have said 20 times.
And it's so true.
It's a opportunity to look at the situation and hopefully find a solution that we can all come to an agreement upon. And with that said, he's not an elected official nor this position, so we can pass the salary ordinance and change it at
Well,
any
that's true.
time.
That is true.
I'd like to ask the question, if Scott were to leave and we were going to promote or hire somebody within the outside, then the width or the matrix would only allow us to hire him at the 63,000 that he's currently making, or can we pay him more like we did Lori when we brought Lori in? Because she wasn't in the metrics, we raised her quite a lot.
I think the range goes up to $76,000.
So if we were to apply, if we were to apply for a new person to come in, we would raise that person to 76, if that's what you're.
Not right now, they would fall in the matrix under year one.
If you adopt the salary ordinance with the matrix in it, then you basically have locked yourself in to whatever you adopt as being year one of the director salary. And the same is true for the assistant director, which are all good reasons to not include those two positions in the matrix.
I agree.
Because those two positions and the salaries, I would think, should be negotiable.
And back to your question, Paul, if the person came in new, you would be back to setting those ranges based on their experience and what they would bring to the table.
So we could be paying a lot more.
Or even less. I mean, it could be someone that's not near as.
Absolutely, both ways. That's not near as qualified.
Weights and measures.
Everything seems to point towards, for the moment, maybe separating these salaries, passing the ordinance as
We
it
could
is
pass
for
the
now,
salary
and then
ordinance
figure
and
this
then
out.
Figure yours out.
I mean, if you want to look at it as an example in another department, EMS is basically that way. EMS, the EMS director is not in the tier situation. It's a salary that you've set separate from the tier. And also true for the assistant. I mean, that's an example of a department where the personnel is in a structured pay, and the department director and assistant director are really salaries and wages that between the council, the commissioners, and the candidate, you negotiate and work out where you're going to end up.
And I think management needs to be more of a negotiated
Yep.
than a matrix.
So if we were to do that by moving them two out, could we do that like as easy as just saying we're doing it tonight?
We could pass the
Say what
salary.
they're going to be,
And say what they're gonna be paid,
what the pay would be. Yes.
what the pay would be, if we were to make that decision tonight.
But I don't think
We're not
Kelly
ready
brought
for
up a good
that.
point. We're not ready for those numbers until you talk to WIS.
Right, and have
based
them
on the-
reevaluated, have the jobs reevaluated.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. But I'd say, I like the idea of moving them out, because I think they're management,
I do
and they
too.
need to be treated differently. But I want to make sure that we're talking to WIS and saying WIS and saying who we want or where we should start.
Well, one caveat that you might consider is if you're going to move towards a range, you could at least set even if you're going to modify it later, a range that's higher than what most of the people in your matrix are making. 'Cause
correct.
Where did you come up with the $76,000 figure?
That was on the WIS study. It's a
That was
range.
on the
It's
study?
the range, the highest.
The end of the range.
The low medium, and high. Okay, I got you. That's where I came up with that.
Would it be simpler to pass the ordinance except
we
for
need
those
to do
two
that.
positions today, or would we want to wait till next time and just pass it all at once?
22nd, right, is our
Well,
next meeting?
I'm okay with you not passing any part of it tonight.
Okay.
If I could get a sort of a sense from you all, though, far as, not including those two positions, what are your feelings about the other pay levels? Because we need to get pay levels put
The
in our
remainder
payroll.
of the matrix, I'm okay with the remainder.
No, I mean everything else.
All the positions.
Yeah, I didn't
For the
have
whole
any,
county.
I didn't have any issues with any of that.
Everything else, you're good?
Fairness to you and your office, it'd be advantageous to go ahead tonight.
We can go ahead, we are going ahead and put pay rates. I just want to be prepared for how many changes we're going to have to make. I mean, if 90+% of this is going to be good, if we got to go in and tweak a few positions, pay, we're good. We can't wait till the end of the month to put in.
What if we don't have quorum at our last meeting? What if we don't have quorum at our last meeting, or you said you needed 5 votes?
We may have to go get somebody and bring them to the meeting.
In favor of doing it tonight.
The only thing I would caution about tonight, and it's just a thought, it doesn't matter to me one way or the other, is what if there's another position or two that we haven't thought about, that we haven't heard about? This gives us some time to figure that out. But 99.9% of this I'm in favor of, these two positions, and there might be one or two others that we haven't heard about.
Well, now, let me say this about that.
Okay?
Do you want me to circulate this proposed salary ordinance to all the other departments? Because I haven't done so.
Some have gotten hold of it, because I guarantee you there's more than 2 positions upset with the new salary ordinance.
Right, I mean.
Gotten calls.
News travels in various different forms.
Well, that's the reason I brought it up, is that maybe,
He just said we're going to have tweaks throughout the whole
I
time,
would-
because a lot of this is going on.
Well, the one thing that I noticed that we'll need, and congratulations to our HR director, but I know there is a change in her salary if she had passed the SHRM, is that how you say that?
Right, and it's already in the salary ordinance.
So, okay,
The 2 different rates of pay.
okay. Then I don't have.
There
an
was
issue.
one other position I didn't have, the maintenance director, I had her, or that position at the hourly rate, and it should have been salary, and I've made that change.
Okay,
We're gonna go ahead and enter rates.
Yeah.
I'm gonna assume you're not gonna make a
there's not gonna be
whole
major
mass
changes. No.
change. And we know that we may have to change 1 or 2 rates or half a dozen or so, but we do have to get it passed before the end of the year.
Yeah, it's fast approaching.
Well, even if
But
we,
it'll give you time to get through, and you need to let me know if you want me to officially circulate it, or if we're just.
it's already out there, why not?
I would think
Yeah,
that the
there's nothing-
office holders have already discussed that with their people.
Well, they haven't got it from me.
we could look at a couple of the office holders and ask them to shake their head yes or no, whether they'd rather. But I think that, I'd like to go ahead and just do it tonight. I'm kind of like leaning toward Vicky, but I don't know if we can come up with a number. I mean, can we do it without coming up with a number for his pay?
That's why I say wait. I say wait for, the next time, say this is pretty much what it is, and if there's a couple tweaks, we have a chance to do it. This doesn't keep Dan from getting his work
I
done.
know if your objective, if one of your objectives is that the pay for each of those positions has to be at least above the highest possible rate for the other, personnel, that 68.5 is your floor. And it goes, and then, did that make sense?
Yes.
It needs to be above 68.5. And what's that say?
Well, I'm not gonna
77?
quibble. It's up to the others.
Where am I not
know most organizations, you know, the personnel, staff makes less than the leadership.
Yeah, no, that's my big
Yeah,
thing right there.
I agree.
Right them for now.
It's the way it goes in
Make a lot less than their staff.
large factories.
You know, if you, I'm just thinking end of the year stuff. You know, we know COVID's ramping up. Maybe we don't get WIS for the next 2 weeks because their people just go down. It's a small staff, or maybe some of you get it. What if you all considered, for now, adopting the arrange and setting Scott's salary at the base, the floor? Because you know you're going to start there. That at least gets us in the right direction. And if we get stuck and don't get to move it till February, it's not the end of the world.
What are you currently making, Scott? 60? You don't know? Okay.
63, 335, I think.
I don't know what your current rate is. I didn't, we don't have that written in. On the second.
So 68 would be a raise.
Yeah, it would be. Mm-hmm.
Or 59, maybe it's like 59.
Yeah, and I don't know, what's your years of service right now?
20.
50 and 20?
Sheriff's Department, I'm maxed. If I start, if you start me back over the.
So you're at 3,000?
6 years, huh? You're at 3,000.
So is it 59 and 3,000? Oh, you're going to tell me that. I'm
Hold
sorry.
on a minute.
I'm sorry.
$59 and the 3,000, so 62.
If we go to the 468, that's a pretty good raise for the first time around. And then what would it be for the deputy? Is it about is it still bringing her above?
Going to 68, though.
Yeah, she's currently at 50,569.
But we have to.
And then she-
What did you say on
Take
her
some
date,
time on this
Dan?
one.
1,569.
Are you maxed out on your
In the
years?
years of
too?
service?
Gee, 12 years?
So
I know
eight-
Dan said 11, we went back
18.
and figured it is 12, 2008, June of 2008.
So that's a couple thousand?
If my math's correct.
52,369.
Then you effectively putting both at the same salary. That doesn't,
Mid-range on.
I don't have that.
Yeah.
I didn't bring that.
Huh, okay.
I think maybe we should hold off on this one till, you know, give us a week or so to figure it out. Talk to WIS. And either don't pass the salary ordinance today or pass the salary ordinance and separate their two salaries out for the moment.
Is that what the majority of the vote says within the council?
I'm just
You
giving
gotta
my
have
opinion.
5, right, Dan?
So I'm just wondering
To
if we
approve
took the vote,
salary.
are we wanting to wait or are we wanting to do it tonight? I mean, I'm asking you, is that a vote that we need to have right now?
We can do it in a form of a vote.
Or consensus?
In favor of wanting to wait, say aye or show a right hand.
What's it matter? You said show.
We'll be waiting.
That's a good answer. That's what the majority does.
Thank you for your
You
time.
guys are, you're all up to date on all, you're okay? Okay.
Yeah,
It makes sense, Scott. That was a good question.
we're all on the same page.
I just don't want a lot of talking behind people's backs and come to us and talk to us and.
Yeah, no, I've tried to
And you
reach
got
out to
in
everybody.
politics?
Don't personally-
Let's be adults, you know?
Down.
Working in politics.
Oh, no, you did good in reaching out to us and going through it.
Vicki, is this the only one you're hearing?
And we appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Very rarely do people call me.
I know you do. Yeah.
And
Okay.
we just
We're
want
here
to
to
thank
pick
you
you
all
up.
from the commissioner side for being flexible and working through this. This is very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
EMA annual update.
Uh-oh. Now the argument starts.
Gotta pull his pants up and.
Busy this year, have you?
Did you say that into the microphone? I'm not here to get any money.
At the rest of the department heads, follow that example. We don't want any money.
What the heck?
48 pages of this.
Okay.
Telling you.
Paper for the bathroom.
Oh, my God.
In front of you, I was appointed for 2 years, 2019 and 2020. And you have the 2019 county assessment, which the state does. You have to have 74% of that assessment done to meet the state requirements. We have over 100. The 2020 county assessment, the same thing. The other two documents are 2019 annual report and the 2020 annual report of things that we do. So when you combine all those documents, that's what we've done in the last 2 years. Wow. Because there's a lot more than just state requirements that we had to fulfill. As of today, we've taken in $561,000 in grant money.
I'm sorry, I was yawning. What
Say
was
that
that?
louder, Mark.
As of today, in the last 2 years, we've taken in $561,000 in grant money.
Yes.
We bought a,
Over $500,000 in grant money. That
And I
is
s-
fabulous.
that is me, Tori, and Davey together, because it takes a team effort to make that happen. Dan, I tried to find out how successful the other counties were at that, and nobody really has the figure for each county, what they took in. I don't know where to go for that, but I would think we'd probably be in the top 10%.
Yeah.
We've got a good team. And we bought a lot of equipment for fire departments, police department, sheriff's department, a lot of things that we need. So I appreciate all your support. I did get reappointed for 2 more years from the EMA Advisory Council to the commissioners. So I appreciate that trust in myself, Davey, and Tori.
We appreciate you. You
We
do a good
like you,
job.
Dave.
Yep.
You do
If
a
you have any
great job.
questions after you read all this, it shouldn't take much more than 2 or 3 days. Just get with me. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You.
I'm currently the council's representative, so there'll have to be somebody else step up to replace me on the EMA Advisory Board.
When do they meet?
Um,
Or what's their schedule of meetings?
As needed and annually in December, and every other year we vote to make a recommendation back to the commissioners on who to appoint for the 2-year term.
Okay.
EMS Deputy Officer and EMS Director and Deputy Director job description update.
Good evening. Does everybody want to take a chance and just kind of take a deep breath and relax for a minute? I know you guys have been absorbing a lot of information, and I know I'm the king of run-on sentences, so. I approached the commissioners. What's that?
That mask cracks me up.
It cracks me up too, but that's what I got, bud. That's what I got. I'll take it off if you don't care.
Take you
All right.
seriously.
Yeah, we got COVID going around. He offers me his.
Yeah.
That smacks of great sense. Now, I approached the commissioners this past commissioners meeting on Wednesday about an idea that I'd been working with Josh and Doree for a little while. We had a training officer's position open whenever we had our training officer step down. And we were in the process of looking for that when we unfortunately had to part ways with our deputy director. And it gave us a unique perspective on exactly what was going on within the management and how things were working. Once we brought Keenan on board, I can honestly say within the last 2 months of doing what we've been doing together and how things have been functioning and clicking, we've got more done in the past 2.5 months than I did the 6 months prior. And that's just a testament to we both think alike, we both are prior military, we want to see things done a certain way, and we want to hit the ground running in certain areas. And there's certain things that were lacking. So we took the opportunity, once we got all the applications from Indeed and from outside on the deputy director's position, to come to Josh and say, hey, let's take a pause, because most of the people that we had coming out to apply for that position were from out of state. Most of them were 2 to 3 years here, 2 to 3 years there, and it just seemed like we had a consistent tracking of job jumpers who just were going from one institution to another, and that doesn't smack of any kind of consistency in management that, you know, you just when you're getting yourself where you need to be and you're got all the cogs in the right place, now all of a sudden you're running up against them leaving and having to replace them. And unfortunately, within the EMS system, that's kind of the way things work right now. You're going from one place to another. I think we've built a culture with Morgan County EMS that has, I won't say eliminated that, but has limited that. We have people who have taken less money to drive further to come and work for our service because they said this is how it's supposed to be done. And that makes me feel good. That makes me feel like the trust that everybody's placed in me is working, and the culture that I'm trying to build is working. But with that said, the whole reason why we did this experiment was to see exactly what we need. And what this has told us is we need to have supervisors on the floor 24/7 with our crews. The model is there to look at in fire and police and other public safety entities. And what we had intended to do was to offer up our training officer's position, which is an hourly and collects overtime, plus the additional money that was outlined in the 2020 budget in the EDO line item. I believe it's $36,000 and some change is there, so that we can put that towards a compromise so that we can get our EDOs in the 2021 budget to get them on board as soon as possible. And I had an opportunity to meet with most of you, Vicki. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance
That's fine.
to talk. But I had very good meetings with all of you, and I appreciated it. Everybody asked good questions, and I think that once you had a chance to digest the information, just to give you that history lesson once again on what we were trying to do and what we're trying to predict for the future, we just want to see that with safety and accountability and alignment and clarity are all part of what we're doing. And I think the only way we can truly do that is to have 24/7 supervision within EMS.
Does your people on the floor agree with that? Or the drivers
The
and
people that I've talked to,
EMA?
we don't have drivers. We have EMTs and paramedics.
It's okay.
I don't want them to get hostile, so he's want to bring it up. The ones that I've talked to are supportive of it. They see the need of it. Most of them have either been in management before, and they see the need for the presence to be there and to take care of these things that, I mean, we're asking a lot from a lot of people. We've got people that are running supply. We've got people that are running quartermaster. We've got people that are running certain details of the organization while we can't be there and on a regular basis without any compensation. And these are things that supervisors could be doing, and that would free us up to be able to roll out the policies and procedures that currently we have on the back burner because we can't put it out there due to the fact that it cannot be functionally executed without having that 24/7 presence.
One more question, I guess.
Sure.
And I don't think I asked you this when we met, is currently this is looking to do away with the training position?
Yes, and that would
add that
cause
to
a
your supervisor.
reorganization of the deputy director and the director's position. We would both absorb certain functions of that particular position. And that was outlined in the revision that I sent out to you guys. Most of the sub-bullet points are portions of the training officer's position that would fall under us. Now, with me, the buck stops with me anyway. You can look at it as an umbrella almost instead of an absorption. All that stuff comes to me anyway, inevitably. I'm responsible for it. I'm accountable for it. This just makes it easier for us to be able to roll this stuff out and for it to be exercised throughout the organization. Because right now it comes to our door and we put it out, but there's nobody there to make sure that that's being done outside of when we go home for the evening, whatever time that may be.
So are you confident that you will never need the training position again?
Am I confident that we'll never need the training position again? I'm not deleting a position saying that I'm never going to need it again. What I'm saying is that if at some point in time, if you want county EMS, if you want a full county system, there will be other things that we're going to have to reevaluate as we progress in that and as the agency grows. So I'm never going to put a never on anything, but I'm saying right now we can do without it and absorb it for the betterment of the organization to put those 3 positions on the floor.
So you're gonna use the training money then to pay the money that trainer was making, is that
Yes,
money?
correct.
You're
And
gonna
plus
use
that
that to pay-
alleviates, both positions in the office then would be exempt from overtime. Right now, the training officer if they're the only one that's conducting training, I can guarantee if they're doing it properly, there's gonna be hours of overtime, and that's at about $37 an hour. I mean, they enjoy it, sure. But, yes. And we see that as a compromise that we believe is fair and is fiscally sound. The vote of the commissioners, obviously, you've gotten their letter, that was unanimous on their end. Obviously, if you got any questions for them, they're here in support of it. But I think that's where we stand, and we're willing to make these compromises and to work to make this work for the betterment of the organization.
Any questions of the director?
Donnie got me numbers. I wanted to see now versus that change, and it's roughly a $200,000 increase.
When you factor in all the benefits, right now, nobody in the office takes the group health insurance, but you have to factor in that someday they're going to.
Yep. Because
So-
if that person leaves and the next one comes.
Exactly. In our system, and in most of the offices as well, it's a fluctuating balance. You try to budget for the entire organization having insurance, knowing that at some point in time during like you say, a turnover, if somebody does leave the organization, then we have the funds there without having to come back to you all to do that. And which, so far, we haven't had to do that. We haven't had to ask for any additional appropriations. So,
My thoughts are we need to let I like the idea of having somebody on staff who's in charge, since this is a 24-hour operation. I think that's important. I do think that's a good idea to, giving the director, and many of our directors have taken some opportunities to try to be creative in how they thought about making things work. Is it always going to work out exactly? Maybe not, but I like that idea of encouraging creativity. So in general, I think it's a good idea, mainly because we need to have somebody on there 24/7, and the director and assistant director can't be there 24/7. It just isn't feasible.
well, and from our previous meeting, we're going to have somebody that's going to be able to watch the backhoes and the other things around the EMS building. So.
We'll just add that in the job description. Night security guard.
Night security. We'll do it.
This would be an amendment to the salary ordinance as well.
That's what I was just getting.
This is a timely discussion because
And that's the reason why I put the pay in where I did, because it alleviates pay compression, because these duty officers will still have the opportunity for overtime. And with them being $2,500 over the highest paid paramedic at the current level, in the midpoint, it seemed logical that the midpoint for them would be that $56,000 range.
And we can absorb that. We're okay with that cost.
we're okay with that. And if the council wishes to go in that direction, then I'll amend the salary ordinance for the next meeting when you're considering it and circulate that out to you.
Well, I would be in favor. I don't know about the rest, but it takes a majority.
Donnie, how many employees daily are being supervised on a 24-hour shift?
On a 24-hour shift, there's 12 spread over the good portion of 410 square miles.
Right. Is there an opportunity where, since there are 2 of you that are in administrative, working hopefully administrative hours, that then maybe we come to a compromise? This is basically two more new positions because we're absorbing one from the training officer.
Sure.
Where we might find a different compromise, where we might say, okay, we need someone just to cover at night, because the administrative staff is not there at night, so we need someone just there at night, and maybe find a way to do it more fiscally responsible, where we have someone that's just working nights, and then maybe a part-time officer, you get that would just be working part-time hours on the weekend to cover those weekend hours, as opposed to basically 3 full-time salaries here.
Well, I look at it this way. I mean, really what you're doing is we're only growing. We're looking at the absorption of areas that we're not even currently responding in, but we're taking property taxes from, such as Clay Township. We're looking at what we're going to do there. That's going to require more. If we do absolutely commit to Clay, it's going to require more equipment, more people. It just increases the amount of people that are being supervised, the amount of the operation. If we end up going county-wide anytime within the next 5 years, I think what you're doing is and I understand where you're going with this, and I respect your opinion on it. I just think that it's putting a Band-Aid on an arterial bleed, if you will, from a management perspective. And it's going to be really difficult to find somebody of any kind of quality that's going to want to take that position just with those hours to do the management. Because honestly, if it doesn't go through here, then I have to go hire a deputy director, and then we're going to have to kick it down, and it'll be a part of a future budget. In which case, it's I can't go back and necessarily terminate a position after I've hired them just so we can. That's the reason why it was important. That was the reason why it was important to take a look at it now, to exercise the experiment now, to see where we're at, if this is truly needed. And what we saw and what Josh saw when we got down to the nuts and bolts of it was absolutely needed.
Did you have any input, Josh? I'm acting like I'm leading this meeting.
So I'll say a couple things. One, I hate that we had to come about it this way, and we didn't intend to. At budget time, we came at it from an initial approach, and then it was really Donnie saying, let me try something else and see how it goes. And that has worked. Some things that have happened in tandem with this. One, we've got updated financials from Dan, so we're going to be projected cash balance of about $1.2 million on 1/1 of '21. We also are expected to increase our revenue because of the fee schedule changing. The estimate is around $1.7 million. So while we would be increasing, we do have more revenues anticipated to come in than we had this year, and we have a pretty strong cash balance. And so then we get into the position, does our service increase and we have a reliable management team or not? And if not, when we come about this next year, you'll have the ability to cut it if it's not performing and doing what you expect, or if it's hindering. So obviously no one wants to do that, but I just, from our side, commissioners are very supportive of this. It was a unanimous vote. We see some strong indicators why this is worth trying now. And Donnie was going to wait until next year to even have this conversation, but as COVID hit, he realized that we were getting stretched so thin without this level of management that we couldn't wait until January, and so
Gotcha.
commissioners formally acted. So that's all I'll say. I appreciate you guys' consideration.
Thank you.
Any other input? What would the council as a whole like to see?
I like this idea. I'll be open about it. I think it's a good idea. I think if we think of any kind of pseudo-military type of operation, you need to have a command structure and different layers to just be able to function. So I think this is a smart move.
I agree.
Is that a motion?
I'll be happy to make a motion that we approve it.
Questions?
Are we going to put it on the salary ordinance?
Yeah, we have to put it on the salary ordinance. So I don't
Then
know
we
if it's
can always
appropriate.
debate it in 2 weeks.
Yeah, let's make it a consensus. Yeah, I would say I would like to do that, but I don't think it's ready for motion.
I'm going to give you my 2 cents where I'm going to wrestle this guy in the near future on a topic. They are projecting revenue from 1.2 to 1.7. That's $500,000. There is your,
Can you give it to the highway department?
Or at least buy some
I think,
ground.
I think that's the reason why, I think that's the reason why I said that, we haven't had any additionals.
I'm sorry.
you laugh, but that's how I'm planning on the 3 EMS facilities to be funded. I think they fund themselves.
I do too, I really do, and
We
were talking
kind of
about
discussed
it.
this, but as far as the bond, and they got that levy, and we've got startup cost, and he and I will go around and around. I think if you get another $500,000, you can easily build the 3 facilities and have enough revenue coming off that to have 3 nice additional. And then we also, in a short conversation, talked about having enough too to keep what we do have to help with some of the maintenance and up cost. So I'm not afraid of that, because I'm gonna move some of our earlier discussions into funding his own buildings. And then I think that that you do need the 24-hour supervision, just in case. But those of us who have been around it know, I mean, they always talk about 6 ambulances, and you only need 1, or you only need 2, you only need 3, and then you have a wreck and you need 12, and we only have 6. So there's a lot of things in a very dynamic niche in the county, and it is fairly new, but I think there should be 24-hour supervision, and I think that they should fund their own buildings in the near future. And I think they have the means, and I think we can get there.
I agree with you. I was just talking to Kim in between meetings, and I thought that the prospect of, freeing up that lit money and having the money that we have and the fund that we're growing gives us an excellent opportunity, because I'd hate to see your boat theory being that if we do this on a bond issue and it's longer than 5 years, by the time 5 years rolls around, we're starting to look at remodels already for facilities that people are living in 24/7. It's not just an office where everybody goes home at 5 o'clock. People are living in this thing 24/7. And that changes the occupation, or the occupancy code as well, so that when we go back to it, there are all different sorts of things that we're going to have in these facilities. And I think that freeing up that money is going to be a really smart thing to do.
So we need a recommendation to the auditor to do something with the salary ordinance. That's up to the board and whoever wants to make the motion.
All right,
That's on be your motion.
I will make that
I
motion.
second it.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
5-1.
Who seconded that? I did.
Paul did. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And
Madison Township interlocal agreement.
If I could, just real quick, I just want to compliment you guys on the salary ordinance. I know it's not a very popular thing right now with a lot of people, but I've been a part of consulting firms coming in only to have the agency feed to the consulting firm what they want to hear. They gave you guys information and you worked on it, and we got salaries. Not everybody's going to be happy with that. I mean, I told you I got a $99 raise, and that's probably going to put me in a different tax bracket. But, we got to start someplace. So I applaud you for that, because it really is something that I've seen a lot of people take and waste a lot of money on consultants. So thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome again. So this interlocal is, again, something, if you all approve, we'll have to come to you next year and ask for an additional appropriation to spend down cash within the EMS fund. But the reason for this is expected to be 1/2, I-69 is going to be shut down for the next 18 to 24 months. We are very concerned about our ability to respond up the corridor, especially to the northeastern parts of the county during that time frame. So Commissioner Goodwin has worked with Chief Lang as well as the trustee for Madison to put together an interlocal so that they can respond first in that area throughout the construction. Commissioner Goodwin was very clear, this will be limited in nature. It's not an ongoing process that we're going to continue to just go on with indefinitely. But we do see the need to make sure that we can get up there quickly and someone can respond. So that's the genesis of this. We had offered a lower amount. They countered back. Both The commissioners approved it this morning. Madison Township has said that they are good with $48,000 as the yearly fee to do this, and they will staff their southern station on Landersdale full-time, 24 hours a day with this interlocal. And if they don't, then the hours that it's not staffed will come off of what we pay twice a year.
And there's a 30-day out on it, right?
Yes, that's right.
I thought it was well done. Thank you, Commissioner Goodwin, for that hard work on that.
I can definitely attest, since I live in that general area in Green Township, I can tell you that it is a bit crazy right now, and I think it's going to get a little crazier. So I think it's, the forethought is good, instead of waiting until we are in a situation where it would be more difficult to make decisions, so.
Do we need a motion?
Do we have anything to sign? So we need someone to make a motion to accept the Madison Township interlocal agreement?
Go ahead.
Who are we waiting on?
Who, me?
I thought you were waiting.
I'll make the motion that we accept the interlocal agreement with Madison Township.
We have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Kim Meredith will second.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Personnel policy, employee handbook. I was wondering why you sat down.
I should have looked ahead on the agenda. So you've got an ordinance for the first reading that Jim put together. There's no action required tonight. You all have a copy of the new personal handbook. And kind of a couple things I'll say. We know there was a subcommittee that met. That's where a lot of our recommendations have come from. Doree and I have gone through this draft a number of times. We know there's probably still things that we have missed that need touched up, spelling errors, those kind of things. But we want to give you all an opportunity over the next few weeks to continue to read through it and make comments. If you all say, hey, substantively, we are good here, as I said before, the biggest shift is to PTO and the email I sent away from the way we do time currently. We would love to be able to hit the ground running on 1/1 with that policy. If you say substantively, hey, we've got some things that need to change here, or there's more than just minor revisions, then we may need to hit the pause on that. And so it's purely within your court and the commissioner's court to make sure that you're comfortable. From where Doree and I sit, we are good with the draft you have, and so now it's just policies decisions. And so I guess what I didn't say clearly, but if you have minor edits, I would love for those to be made over the next few weeks. We can get those corrected before it's adopted. And that would be for all the minor stuff. If it's major, then we'll take another look at it. I'm happy to entertain any questions that you would have.
Josh, I've been reviewing the employee handbook, and obviously it's a big step forward to make some big changes, which I think is great. Haven't got all the way through it, but I definitely will keep reviewing that. Another thing I've been reviewing is our job descriptions. And so I think that there's a little bit where we could improve on, they're in a new format, so everybody's the same, which I like to see, so everybody's job description's in the same format. A lot of them have a work schedule, and some of them I'm seeing are actual hours listed that they should be working. And then some of them just list for a work schedule as scheduled. And I think that, especially for some jobs, we know what their schedule is, and I think we could improve and get more detailed on what that schedule should be. So that was something that I would like to see changed on the job descriptions.
That's great. And I know you all, I don't know if you've made a decision, you guys have talked about the subcommittee for job descriptions. You'll need to appoint your people to that. Is that something that you all are wanting to do before the year's end, so we can grapple with some things like that?
That's totally up to you.
Thank Vicki.
And if you want to wait for your new council members, that's fine. We know that we do have some other tweaks that need to be made. And so I would just recommend that we do it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we're going to have 2 new council members coming on, and we'd like to give them the opportunity to maybe join some of those committees.
Actually have 3.
Well, as you continue to go through these things, and I'm sure we're going to find other things like Kelly has found, make note of them, email Dre or I. We'll create a running list so that we can start to take some of these things off in the new year.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you all.
It's a good read.
Are you done? Are you done?
No, but I've, like on the electronic stuff, I've tried to crisscross it to what they make us do at H&R Block and then, and whatnot, just to err on the conservative side, just to, so it's not a quick read. So thank you.
How many times do you have to wake up?
Day fund transfer ordinance. We have an ordinance in front of us. Are you on a, Josh, are you going to stand back up?
Come on, Josh.
This is it.
Where were we before Josh?
What did we do before you?
No.
All right, so you're all familiar with this at this point. We received our CARES Act money. The mechanism by which we received it changed, I'll say 2/3 of the way through the year. And so the way we got that, initially it was going to be reimbursement, but what we ended up doing is being able to submit the salaries of our public safety professionals, and we received it in one lump sum. The difference is, before, if we had gotten it in a reimbursement style, we could have initially put it right back into the rainy day fund from which we paid it for it. Once the mechanism changed, we couldn't do that anymore, and so we have to create a special ordinance that gives permission to move it from the general fund back to the rainy day, which you all have expressed an interest in doing. The way this ordinance reads, there's a couple statutory requirements that Jim's laid out for us on things that have to be met. For you all, one of the biggest things is it can't exceed 10% of your budget. And so, assuming you want to put all the way up to 10% of your budget as the money is available, that's how we drafted this ordinance to move it from general into rainy day. It'll still leave some in the general fund. If you want to do less than that, we can always modify it, but this is a starting point for your guys' discussion if you want to make changes. Dan, anything you would add to that?
10%, currently, 10% of the budget for general fund would amount to $2,257,745. And we received $2,274,828. A little bit more than what you can transfer. But you could set a limit of not to exceed 10%, not to exceed a certain amount, or you can leave it at 10%, and then whatever this is whatever the budget ends up being for the year. My calculation does not include the $600,000 that you appropriated tonight. So that would bring you up to about 2.8 million. So, that may be more you want to pull out of the general fund, or it may not be.
I'm okay doing up to 10%.
Vicky's okay doing up to 10%. Anybody else?
I'm good with that.
Vicky, would you like to make that in form of a motion?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Not to go beyond up to the 10%. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank
On
you.
that same subject,
Yeah.
while you're there, there was an email came today that it looks like some more funding is potentially available, some more grant money coming through
Yes, so this would be through the Okra.
Okra.
We did one of these earlier in the year. We were not able to expend all of our money. It came with a great burden in terms of administration.
Okay.
If Commissioner Goodwin wants to elaborate on that, he can. Looking at the description, I'm not positive. This particular one will be something that will be helpful to us, but we can talk through that together.
Might just take a look at it and see if it's something that, I mean, we want to grab all those dollars we can, if the opportunity is there.
So we can talk some more about that.
Okay, I
and
just wanted to make
if
sure you
there'd
got
be a
that.
good
I
fit
passed
for
that
us.
email on, so,
Yes, you did. Thank you. I
yeah,
received it.
thank you.
Which is appropriate. Is there any other business to come before the council from the public? From one another? Hearing none, I ask for a motion for adjournment.
Got a motion?
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Kim Meredith will second.
We are adjourned. Thank you for attending.
So is that the recreational?
Was gonna be.
Yes, we did.